thank you all for joining us today. And it's 5:05, so it looks like we're going to get started.
Mm-hmm.
You ready? Mm-hmm. All right. I'm going to share this screen here. Oh, can I have screen share, please? Yes, I think so. Thank you. Forgot to check that. Okay. Diet's gone bad. The yo-yos. Yo-yo dieting. And I think anyone, I don't know if there's a single adult on a planet that
I was going to say, aren't all diet yo-yos? Because it's a what is it called? Roulette wheel.
Yeah, or it's a roller coaster. There's like ups and downs always. Right. But the thing that gets so frustrating with yo-yo diets is, people end up like, they always say fatter than before, right?
Yes.
Than before you ever started.
I think, well, my relatives have gone on many diets and they end up eating more because they're so frustrated with the restrictions of their particular diet.
Oh, that's huge.
I mean, this is going back 20 years before keto was even, popular. Keto diet, just either counting calories or counting carbs or counting both, and they end up eating a lot more and gaining more pounds than when they first started.
Well, and what's really tricky too, part of the reason for that is when our weight fluctuates so much, we end up with a different body composition than we started, which means, okay, I'm unhappy. I'm 10 pounds overweight. I've got 10 pounds of body fat to lose. I start doing this whole yo-yo thing. Well, now I'm a little heavier, but instead of 10 pounds of body fat or percentage wise, I've got a higher percentage of body fat or 15 pounds of fat on me.
That's funny. If you put a pound of muscle on a scale, 5 pounds of muscle on a scale, and 5 pounds of fat on a scale, the muscle is going to take up less than half of the space on the scale, which means when you start losing weight, you'll be able to button your shirts or your jeans or your jackets. You're losing inches via fat, but you could still weigh the same on the scale. That's the muscle. So people are a little bit tricked by saying, well, I'm not losing pounds, but can you button your jeans? Oh, yes, it's much easier to button my jeans now because of that.
That's the best gauge, is hang your skinny jeans up and be like, I'm fitting into those again.
Right.
If I fit into my skinny jeans.
Who cares about weighing yourself?
If the scale tells me I'm 300 pounds, I'm happy I'm in my skinny jeans. I don't really care what the number is.
Well, we'll talk about heart issues another time. No, I'm kidding.
Well, yeah. Okay, so yo-yo dieting actually has negative adverse effects on the human body. So it can actually raise our cholesterol, our blood pressure, change in the overall body composition. We talked about that. The percentage of body fat you carry increases. Everyone knows this. It definitely has negative psychological effects, gallbladder disease, adrenal fatigue, hormone disruptors, diabetes type 2, metabolic syndrome, arthritis, stroke, certain cancers. And that was the summed up version of what yo-yo dieting can cause. So we're going to have a few sections in here, and we cannot talk about starvation diets without talking about the Minnesota study. Do you agree? So this was a study, and we could do a whole webinar on this study. It was so messed up. But this was in 1944. It was after the war, during war times, and they were trying to understand the effects of starvation on all these other countries that were really devastated and starving. And so this psychologist, Ansel Keys, did an experiment on men. They had men sign up for the war, or for this experiment. They ended up with a little over 30 participants. They measured their psychological effects, their weight, their eating habits, all of these things beforehand. And then what they did is cut their calories back by about 1,000 calories a day. So these men were still eating, about 15 to 1,800 calories a day. So this was like a semi-starvation diet. And to sum this up, we could dive into this, like I said.
At what point in the study is this picture?
This study was towards the end before they
How many
canceled.
weeks
Before they
or
canceled.
months?
They were going to do this study for a whole year, and they
Uh-huh.
cut it out after 6 months. They stopped.
Because they were malnourished, it looks like.
Oh, well, totally malnourished. But the worst part was these guys' behaviors. These men were totally normal and average
Uh-huh.
body weight,
Uh-huh.
but then they started developing major psychological issues. They developed depression, anxiety. They were hoarding
Right.
food obsession. That half of them became like preoccupied with cookbooks or staring and watching
The
people eat.
psychological disorders is from not enough fat to the brain. Good fat, healthy fat,
Sure.
right?
That's
Is
a
that-
huge component to
Uh-huh.
it. Yeah. And we're wired to survive, and part
Yes.
of surviving is eating. And actually what made them cancel this study early, 6 months early, was because 2 of the guys had started self-mutilating. So
Because they were so depressed?
yeah,
Did the guys in this study, Jen, know that there was an end point to this?
Yeah.
Basically,
Yes.
it's a human experiment.
Yes. And then what they did, so there was this whole pre-starvation, then a starvation period, and then a refeeding period. And it took most of the participants 2 years before some of those psychological effects went away. And the reason, Carrie and I started with this in our webinar today is because we're going to keep referring back to this
Right.
as we kind of touch on some of these other studies. But this is partly why when people are so discouraged when they regain the weight, or they become preoccupied with foods that they shouldn't necessarily be eating, this is a huge reason why. It really messes up the body to go through this stuff. So that comes to anorexia.
Our topic is anorexia. We're going to talk about anorexia and bulimia. Anorexia has severe effects on the body, on the physical body, and on the neurotransmitters in the brain. You can have everything from poor circulation to dizzy spells, fainting, electrolyte imbalance or loss of electrolytes completely is why the dizziness, spells, and fainting. So I have a little anorexia can also cause fertility issues. So it can disrupt the hormones. Also, anorexia and bulimia can cause osteoporosis because of the lack of calcium to the bones. So when these young girls, if any of our audience members know, have nieces or daughters that are coming of age around age 13, that's when you have to really watch for signs that the younger gals are not going toward the starvation. Because I remember back in the 70s, the average waistline size for a model was 22 inches. And so a lot of it comes from magazines. And I think now in since about 2019, 2021, body image, body dysmorphia image, it's geared toward the more healthy figure, full figured gals with some body fat rather than the super skinny models. So everyone should be on the lookout for your daughters going in that direction.
Well, and with social media and Snapchat and Instagram and stuff.
I'm not on that, but you are. I mean, is it still geared towards skinny minis?
Well,
as far as the teens,
there's so many people taking selfies and they put their bodies in these crazy positions.
To look thinner.
I used to model. I know those positions. You don't look like that all the time. You've got to twist and contort your body and turn it into this thing that looks amazing in a photo, but it's so not realistic. And so I think that's where, some of these things do still get caught up in our younger generation is definitely still on. They love social media.
I'd like to talk a little bit about bulimia. Bulimia is a binging and purging episodes. It can cause a lot of acids. So when you're vomiting up acids, that will completely destroy the teeth, have adverse reaction on the teeth. The teeth will become brittle and yellow. There again, that's the calcium, the bones. Also, the vomiting, which controls the sphincter in the esophagus, is disrupted, therefore leaving the esophagus, the swallowing mechanism, in a weaker formation from all the vomiting. So those are, just some simple things to go along with bulimia.
Yeah. And again, that chronic fatigue and hormone imbalance. That's so, Eating, man, all of these diets really affect our hormones.
Bulimics actually have a higher percentage of bone calcium than an anorexia, because bulimics tend to eat more calories. They're getting rid of them, but they're consuming more calories and more sugars and fats, high calorie meals.
Yeah.
They're getting rid of them. They're purging them, but their bone density is actually, you can have a bulimic that's looks overweight compared to an anorexic. So bulimia has a higher bone density, so they're less likely to have osteoporosis, but still, causes problems to the bones, just like anorexia.
Totally. Ooh, our common nutrient deficiencies. So this is of course common in the starvation diets, but we see these actually you can even see these deficiencies in our obese population too, because of the foods they're eating. So
this one, number 3, low vitamin D. How often? All the time.
All the time. Yeah. So iron, iodine, vitamin D, B12, calcium, vitamin A, and magnesium. And these are just 7 of like the most common. There's still actually we could have had a list of 10 to 15 common ones. Our diet is so poor these days. But so I think anorexia and bulimia, and those starvation ones where you're really cutting calories is really a lot of people, I feel like it's common sense to know those don't work. But what about the healthy diets?
Well, I mean, even if you're cutting calories, you still need nutrition. You still need to have nutritional meals. Even if they're cutting calories and you're exercising like crazy, you still need the supplements.
Totally.
And electrolytes.
So, I was in the bodybuilding world for a long time.
Right.
And I competed professionally for a long time. I actually coached as well. And I had a lot of clients that came, they're like, oh, she's bodybuilding. It's one of the healthiest diets.
You tell her.
Let's learn from Jen and see what she's doing. And guys, I'm here to burst your bubble. Because the bodybuilding diet is not sustainable long-term. One, it takes the body to dangerously low body fat for a show. And yes, we do that for, athletes do it, to look a certain way. Movie stars do it to fill a role for a movie. But running that low on body fat, just that alone really can disrupt hormones.
Right. You're gonna, especially for any athlete at any age, but the young gals, when they're first starting their menses, the lowest percentage of body fat, the young gals will not be able to have a period, not start their menses, because their body fat is too low. Now that can be reversed once you start consuming higher fats, but in these competitions, gymnastics, etc. It's not healthy. So there's a lot of unhealthy little athletes out there, I'm afraid.
Well, and I put in bodybuilding, but you're right. It's your endurance athletes, gymnasts, like anyone who's even competitive dancers. I was in that
ballerinas
too.
Probably even.
Oh man, I was competitive dancing before bodybuilding, and none of it's right. But they tell you to eat a high protein. Guys, that science is 10 to 15 years old. It is old. Those are old studies, and Harvard has completely debunked how much protein you need. And bodybuilders are eating 1 to 1.5 grams of protein per pound of body weight every day,
which is a lot more than it used to be.
Yeah,
thinking, right?
Absolutely. It's a disgusting amount. And Harvard has proved actually that is harmful to our bodies. Our kidneys can't take it. It's too acidic. It's just horrible. And again, we could do a whole lecture on.
When you were bodybuilding, Jen, did you have episodes where the brain function was not?
Oh, absolutely.
Optimal? I'm just curious.
Absolutely.
I mean, we've never talked about that.
Yeah, and coming into a show, we really would deplete ourselves. So part of the lack of nutrients, it's you're eating like so many green vegetables, so much protein, so much carbs, so much fat, and it's weighed at every meal, and it is timed out. And it tells you to start ignoring your body signals. Then when we get close to a show time, the last 2 weeks.
What particular signals? Let's just say.
When you're hungry
Oh,
and you can't eat because
you have to wait that one out.
You have to wait
Oh.
until it's time, or when you're not hungry and you don't want to eat, or you want to stop, or a lot of times, like I wanted more fat in my diet. I'm like,
I'm sure
I want
you're
more almond
because
butter
that's what
than
your
this.
body was telling you needed.
You need it.
That's
right.
why I think, isn't that right? That's why you're saying listen
Yeah.
to the signals.
Yep, absolutely. Intuitive eating is so beneficial. And it's something we start training out of our toddlers, even like finish your plate. Guy, parents, please don't do that. They have these innate like body signals. It tells us exactly what we need, and we're not going to have obese kids. But then
we do have a society of obese children.
Yeah.
I see children running around 7, 8 years old.
Yeah. Well, and then we're feeding them the processed food too.
Right.
That also is chemically designed.
Triggering more cortisol.
Exactly. It's chemically
right.
designed to have us ignore our body signals. But going into a show as well, Carrie, the last 2 weeks before a show, a lot of the protein for a lot of the athletes, a lot of the men jump to just steaks. A lot of the women, if they need to lean down more, there's just fish. There's like no variety. So it's like asparagus, fish, and yams every meal. It's horrible.
I have a stepfather who's 82. He'll be 82. He was 82 February. He was bodybuilding, Mr. Olympian when I was growing up, and I have a photo of a competition that he was in when he was 74. He looks. I mean, his body looks like a 30-year-old. It was amazing. But all the guy ate was steak, a slice of tomato, and a glass of red wine, maybe some asparagus. Right. So
what did Arnold Schwarzenegger eat? He said he would eat a chicken and a chicken and a pitcher of beer. So he got his protein and his carbs. That's disgusting. But anyway, you low calories and you do all that cardio because you got to lean down. It's going to give you adrenal fatigue. And the biggest thing I can get to, these bodybuilders too, when they have conversations with me, they're really resistant. They don't want to have these conversations. Like, nope.
Why do you suppose that is?
They are convinced it's healthy and they want to stay.
They don't want to hear that it isn't.
No, but let me tell you this, if you are out there doing these diets, if you can sit down and finish a bag of potato chips, if you're craving salty, crunchy, you have adrenal fatigue, my friend. And it can be reversed, but it's created because of the diet you're on.
Here we go.
Keto. This
trails right into keto.
Yes, it does.
About the artery clogging fats.
Yeah. Keto's tough. Or Atkins.
I know a few family members who've been on it very successfully. My brother-in-law lost 30, 35, 40 pounds, but as soon as he started eating normally, the weight came on, but he had to really be strict. But it didn't come back all the way, but it came back at least 10 pounds heavier. But he watched it from then on.
Well, and then think about what people are eating when you're on a keto diet. If you're eating bacon and eggs,
that's what they were eating.
And you have to eat one piece of broccoli because it's too many carbs. What is happening in your arteries? What's happening in your body, right? How, and I think that's it. People want to get away with eating those higher fat foods and, sure, eat a ton of processed sausage. And
if somebody were to go on a keto diet and a patient came to you and they said, look, I researched it. I really want to just shred, 20 pounds. Would you say, sure, try it for 2 weeks only? Is there a time limit on this before it can start wreaking havoc on your arteries?
No, let me tell you why. So after one meal of keto, science has proven that your serum and your blood is thick and clogged with fat.
So you wouldn't want to go 2 weeks with that.
No, and it's starting to disrupt all your hormones to where 2 weeks, if you have a low tolerance to something like that, could knock out your thyroid like that. And that's what's tricky.
Or if you already have low thyroid.
Yep, absolutely. And, most of us know that once you lose those good thyroid functions, it doesn't really come back. So where keto gets tricky is it is good for epileptic pediatric patients. And it has actually shown some really positive neurological benefits for that population. there's studies and things being done on Parkinson's. Nothing's been conclusive for other neurological dysfunctions. And the other place that keto has been put to good use is in cancer patients. I still prefer raw vegan for cancer patients, but there are people when they're doing, especially the ones doing insulin potentiated.
Is it because of the good fats? They need that.
It's because they're keeping the blood sugar gone,
Right.
low.
Yeah, there's
so
no
they
process,
can
no.
so they can drop
Right.
the blood sugar to get the chemo in.
Okay.
So those patients that are doing the insulin potentiated therapies,
It's very. I know it's very hard. Keto is very hard on the kidneys too. They can go into renal failure, have to use dialysis. So if you have any sort of kidney disease disorder, possibly stones, that's an acidic condition. I would stay away from the keto as well.
And heart problems or history of heart problems in
Absolutely.
your family. This one's fun, the low fat, low carb. And I kind of grouped this together because it's just gimmicks. It's kind of, you can cut out carbs for dinner and, or cut out carbs after 3, but truly we need a well-balanced diet to have our body function optimally. And a lot of this low fat food or the low carb food, they're processing that food.
It has more sugar
To add, if it's low fat, it's going to have more
higher
sugar.
Right.
If it's low carb and they've somehow pulled the carbs out, they're adding fat, and then they're adding fillers and all sorts
trans
of
fats.
They're just adding garbage to your food. And so truly a big takeaway with this is going to be eat as many whole foods as you can, right?
Yes. They're more filling and they have fiber.
Yes. And don't get caught up in the marketing gimmicks.
Yes.
Like I think that's where people, at least I know in my family, they get really tripped up on that. They're like, oh, it's low fat, it's good for me, or it doesn't have any sugar. So
I can eat the whole box of brownie, no fat cookies.
That's like saying I'm vegan, so I'm going to polish off French fries and beer and then Oreos for dessert.
Right.
And I did a healthy thing because it was vegan. No, there's nothing healthy about French fries, beer, and Oreos. So I think that's just one big thing to watch for, guys. Processed food
raises your cortisol.
Yeah.
The higher sugars and the low fat.
And have you heard of that book, Salt, Sugar, Fat?
I think so, but I haven't read it.
So salt, it's a fabulous read for anyone interested, but salt, sugar, fat is actually what it is it's a ratio that scientists came up with that says, this food's supposed to be savory.
I know what you're talking about, like a Dorito.
Yes.
Is that right?
Totally. So
listen to this story, guys. This is good.
Yeah. So Doritos are great.
It's designed. It is chemical engineering to make it taste like you want 10 more.
Right. Yes.
It's the perfect amount, right?
Because Doritos are savory food. There is a very specific ratio of salt, sugar, and fat that will strike your dopamine.
Yes.
It's going to give you a hit. And, there's advertisements. I don't know if it's Doritos or not. Says, I bet you can't just eat one.
That's the same. Lay's potato chip. It's the same amount of sugars.
Yes, because they figured out their ratio. Donuts are that way. Like all of these big industries, Coca-Cola and Pepsi, you guys are addicted to the food.
Because of the chemical
because you're actually
engineering.
Addicted.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
They put science behind it and they did it on purpose. And then they can put in like, it's low carb, so eat more. And I've got a special ratio to make sure you're going to eat a lot more of my food and crave our food. So that's it's eye-opening when you see what the heck is happening in our grocery stores. It's shameful.
Oh, these are some good ones.
Okay, so these are
really good
ones. Common dieting mistakes. So we talked about that already. Extreme caloric restriction.
Yes.
Don't starve yourself. And plus, you can't really the human body can't lose more than 2 pounds of body fat a week. If you're losing more than that, you're losing water or muscle.
I've seen advertisements that say, do this and you can lose a pound of fat a day.
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah, marketing.
Oh my.
Skipping meals or snacking all day.
Right.
That's
a lot of us have jobs that we can't stop for lunch. So we do snack. It's what we put in though. Or what are we eating the Dorito, or are we having a half of an apple
Yeah. Well, and that's where
or
I
some
think
celery.
being mindful,
You
like this,
have to be.
this
Yes.
mindless eating, like
Yes.
so many people, how many people sit down and eat in front of the TV?
All of middle America, all of.
Well,
You know.
what that does is in 1 hour of watching television, there's some study, it's around 3,000 subliminal messages to eat more food, by the way.
So you're getting more.
So now
you're filling your plate again, is what you're saying,
right?
Or perhaps.
And you're mindless. It's a numbing behavior, and
Mhm.
so a lot of times people are doing that because there's
Mhm.
some other thing going on that they don't want to feel or dive into.
Mhm.
And that goes back to the mindful eating that I think Devin did. It was a great webinar. Go back on YouTube.
You can
watch
even
her webinar.
you know you're a Reiki master. You can create. Just tell me if I'm wrong. Mindful cooking. So
Absolutely.
I had a sensei a long time ago, jujitsu sensei, that told me when you're cooking, what sort of energy are you emitting into your food? So he said back then that if you're PO'd and you're angry at your husband and you're making a meal, that meal could possibly make everyone sick.
Yeah.
I mean, is that a thing?
Absolutely. That's
you're
a thing.
Reiki master.
Yeah, I Reiki.
I always remember that.
Absolutely.
And I always remembered. So when you're cooking, just have a joyous spirit. Put thought and love and energy into what you're making.
Absolutely. Love into your food, into your drink.
Yeah.
Like you can put love into this. And that's not crazy. It's totally a real thing. And actually being mindful of, okay, how's my body feeling and responding? There's this amazing study, the one with the twins.
Yes, tell that.
Oh, I love that.
Can you?
Yes,
Okay,
I love this one. Oh, you guys, it is a good one.
Okay.
So the twins, they took these two women and they were identical twins. They were fed identical meals, cooked and prepared the same way, same amount of calories.
We're not talking about toddlers. We're talking about.
No, adult women.
Okay.
Adult women who consented to this 12-week study.
Okay.
And this has been repeated multiple times, but it was so profound and exciting. Like I have to share the original one.
Yeah, okay.
So everyone made the food for these women, so they didn't have to cook or anything. The only difference was one woman had to eat on her timed schedule. She had to eat breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack, whatever her timed schedule was. The other twin she could only eat when she felt calm. If she was upset, if she was anxious, if she was angry,
they advised don't have that
she
meal.
was not allowed.
Snack, right?
She was not allowed to eat until she felt better. So she ate intuitively. She still ate. They matched calorie for calorie.
Oh, okay.
But she only ate when she felt good.
At the end of the day, were they both consuming the same amount of calories?
Yes.
They were.
Yes. They both finished the same food. And the same food cooked identical.
Oh, okay.
The only difference was how they felt when they actually ate the food.
Okay.
The one twin who had to eat on her time schedule gained 4.5 pounds in 12 weeks.
Wow.
The twin who ate when she only felt good lost 10. That's awesome because there must be something to proves that it's so much more than calories in, calories out. They did everything else identical. They're identical twins. It was exactly the same. And
very interesting.
Yeah. And so that goes into what your intentions are in your food and how you're feeling. And you know what? That's from the moment I read that study, I'm the type that if I'm stressed out, even nervous, even good nerves, I'm not hungry.
I'm not either.
I don't want to eat.
If I'm mad or angry or something about a situation, I am not hungry. But I have a girlfriend, if she's upset, manja.
That's mindless to
manja,
numb.
yeah.
That's to numb her feelings. And so, but it's really cool. And so if you listen to that, oh man,
so if we have audience members out there who want to start a diet just because they'd like to knock off 10 or 15 pounds, intentional cooking and mindful eating will help them lose weight. Is that what I'm getting out of your story?
Yep.
Okay.
Be in a good place. Okay. Take 10 deep breaths and make sure you feel good. If you're anxious and unsettled, don't eat right then. It's okay. And the other thing too is some people are like, well, I'm hungry or I don't want to be hungry. Well, hunger is not an emergency.
Well, either you are or you aren't. In my belly, either I am or I'm not.
And it's just a signal, right?
Right.
And a lot of time, actual hunger what we perceive as hunger is
Uh-huh.
usually thirst. It's dehydration
Uh.
a lot of times.
So if you drink a glass of water, say half an hour before a meal, you'll tend to eat less.
Yeah. Yeah. Make sure you stay hydrated.
Mhm.
Okay. So, other mistakes, loading up on the diet, the low fat, the low
Mhm.
carb. Even some people will see gluten-free. They're like, oh, it must be healthy.
Oh, that's another one. Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many of those little things.
Mhm.
And actually what the FDA allows to be said and
Mhm.
not said. And if you don't learn all of those things, it can
Mhm.
just be so tricky. So it's really staying away from the convenient food and the processed foods.
Mhm.
Drinking calories is another big one.
I'm kind of guilty on that because I'll bring a giant 40-ounce protein smoothie to work, and
At least it's protein.
it's got, it's got antioxidants and electrolytes and protein and all the good ingredients, but there's no fiber involved until I go home and eat a salad. So
Yeah, fiber is a
Yeah.
good one.
Mhm.
Dehydration, like we just
Mhm.
talked about, and then those
Water is key to to dieting and losing weight.
yeah.
You have to be hydrated.
Yes,
Have to be
yes,
hydrated.
definitely. And then setting unrealistic goals, right? Those
Mhm.
people who want to lose 5 pounds a week and
Mhm.
pull it off fast, that is your quickest road to yo-yo dieting.
Mhm.
Because when it comes off fast, think of the
Mhm.
pendulum swing, right? You swing it
Mhm.
one way, it's going to swing back even harder.
But some of the audience members, well, I'm getting ready to go to a wedding or be married, and I really want to knock off 15 pounds, and I
Give yourself
have
the time.
3 months to do it. That's pretty
Yeah,
realistic.
yeah, absolutely.
It's not 2 weeks.
Nope.
It's 3 months.
Be
You can do that.
realistic. And then
Mhm.
honestly, get the weight off and keep getting the tips and living this
Mhm.
healthy lifestyle
Mhm.
to where
Carry it on forward.
it's not a
Yeah.
diet, it's a
Right.
lifestyle.
Right.
And that's really
Right.
kind of the change.
Right.
So, a balanced diet with mostly vegetables and unprocessed food is your key to long-term success. It really, really is. It's that
Mhm.
simple. You don't have to count calories. I haven't counted calories since I stopped bodybuilding.
Mm.
And oh, that's so freeing. Okay, we're gonna stop our share now because
I'd like to see some questions.
yeah,
Or hear some questions.
we've got some questions coming in. Thank you guys. Put all of your questions in the Q&A for us, and we will get all of you when we can. So please make the distinction between calorie restriction versus intermittent fasting for yo-yo.
Mm.
So I had a feeling we'd get into intermittent
Mhm.
fasting. And that's a great question, actually. Intermittent fasting, for those of you, I'm going to just do a brief explanation for those of you who might not know what it is. That's where we go through periods of the day where we don't eat where we go not eating. So the body stays in a fasted state. Theories are that it can burn more body fat as we go. I like intermittent fasting. But I think that it's something you need to be careful with and almost use under guidance because there's so much propaganda and people trying to sell you on their nutrition theories.
Are you talking about more than 12 hours for intermittent fasting?
Yeah,
Up to 24? Like,
so
what are you?
Well,
at what hour does the danger lie?
Well,
After 12?
So that's a fabulous question because there's no right answer. It's kind of different for everyone. That that saying where everyone's born with a credit card and we all have different terms and conditions. So the thing with intermittent fasting, most of the studies that are put out there to like the general public, everyone can get into PubMed and go read the real studies. What they did is those studies look amazing. They removed all the women from the study. They only published the part on men. And so men actually do really well with intermittent fasting. And so sometimes they'll wake up and just fast for you'll have a period of time is what it is where you're fed. So maybe that's 4 hours, maybe that's 8, maybe that's 16, and the rest is fasted, whatever it is.
Wouldn't it be different for everybody? Because over a certain amount of hours later, one might become dizzy from low blood sugar and they'll need electrolyte drink
that's your tolerance.
Everybody's going to be different.
Yes. And can I tell you, intermittent fasting with a lot of women too will really disrupt hormones way faster. So I've seen women who run a little higher testosterone do really well with it. And I've seen more way more health problems with intermittent fasting with women though, really. And so I'm not advising against it. I would advise with caution. Women need to have longer windows of fed time. But, fasting, that being said, fasting is built into every religion on the entire planet because fasting is very beneficial, especially when we're sick and there are times to fast. You see that in Catholics with Lent and, Ramadan and all these other, versions of it. And so fasting, there are major times when it comes into play. That's also a time when people are sick, when they don't feel very hungry.
I remember now that you say Catholics, we grew up with that sort of religion. And I remember during Lent, we would have times where we would fast as a child.
And cut out meat, Fish Fridays.
And Fish Fridays,
yeah,
yes.
Because that's, and every religion has their version of it. And there are some cultures like the Aborigines, they're like, what do you mean you eat 3 times a day? What do you mean you eat every day? Like they don't understand Americans at all. Like you eat every day and then 3 times.
And it's not that their lifespan's shorter.
No, actually. And all your centurions, they do incorporate fasting. So I'm not advising against fasting but intermittent fasting is definitely one to
just watch signs for dizziness and low electrolytes, low blood sugar. And then at that point, take action. Just because you're fasting and you committed to 12 hours, which is more important, taking care of your body or starving yourself? Acne
is a good one too.
What?
If you see acne, you're creating disruption. So it's not working. Whatever you're doing is not working, and please stop. Okay, our next question: creating dopamine addiction through food and smell. Daniel Amen, Brain Warrior. Yep, emotions into food while cooking.
I'm not familiar with Amen.
Yep, there's all sorts of different. What's the Arnold Schwarzenegger one? His vegan one is really good. He's got a documentary. There are so many good books though, you guys. There's definitely a lot of books out there. Okay, what is the worst diet? What do you think, Carrie?
The worst?
Mm-hmm.
Low fat, low carb, low fat, because there's so many hidden sugars in processed foods. It's just not, you're being tricked.
Yeah, I think that one's pretty bad. I have a hard time with keto too. Because it's people, with Atkins and stuff, they see it pull off weight, which it does do. But it creates so many other health problems.
If we could just get away, guys, from the word diet and more just steer toward lifestyle, changing habits with your food.
Yes.
Not concentrating on so much on a diet or weight, but how healthy are we through our nutrition?
Yep. Game Changers. Yes, thank you. Arnold's movie.
Who gave that one to you?
Probably
Someone who knows you.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. And yes, studies or statistics show that men are starting to struggle with these eating disorders too. Absolutely, guys. That's kind of a big thing. I'm playing with my computer. Okay. So what are your thoughts on cheat days? Cheat days are tough for me because I think that people feel deprived, and so they want to reward themselves, and it puts them back in this struggle of being addicted to these crappy foods.
Or you're doing a great job with your diet, and on a cheat day, you feel guilty. You don't want to cheat because you don't want to ruin your Monday if your cheat day's on a Sunday or Saturday.
Well, and then people feel bad and they feel bloated and they feel gross. So, and this was the other part of bodybuilding that I really didn't like. After a show, we'd get real lean and thin. I'd been down to the lowest I'd ever been was 7% body fat. Which for my division was crazy. I was way too lean. you know, I had some poor coaching during that period of time. But then we were always encouraged to go have a cheat day, eat whatever you want for a day.
So did you cheat during your cheat day?
Back then, yes.
And did you overindulge? Probably not, because you
No,
couldn't
heck
it probably
yeah.
made you feel terrible though,
No,
didn't it?
oh, it made you feel awful.
Well,
but
isn't that the point?
yeah,
That
it made
why
you feel
cheat if you're
terrible.
gonna make you feel terrible?
But that's part of the yo-yo cycling is what I think cheat days perpetuate. But so then what I had time with, so I want to spend a few minutes on this question, because then what happened, I noticed for me, was that it was like perpetuating this cycle of yo-yo dieting.
Well,
really.
like, why not 2 cheat days instead of 1?
Well, but then you've had it, and
then
you're craving it, and then, you know,
then you're struggling all week because you're like, oh, I really want what I had Sunday.
And then then you feel depressed because you've just backtracked, and it's like this weird vicious cycle. And that's what I think cheat days creates. It starts to mess with you mentally.
How about a cheat moment?
Well,
not a whole day, maybe just like a cheat, like I don't even know what your cheat would be.
Can I tell you how I've personally solved this? Because this was a huge struggle. And I used to even say, you got to feed your soul. Like, you can't be perfect all the time, and you can't be. I don't think anyone can be. But when you're doing these starvation diet and then cheat days, it really is creating a lot of disharmony, if nothing else, in your body, mentally and physically and spiritually. And so what I did was I was able to find healthy vegan foods. I eat chocolate every day, guys, every single day. And
dark chocolate,
but it's a raw vegan chocolate. It's not loaded with sugar. But it's something that, you know, I found foods that were able to make me feel that warm and fuzzy feeling that were still not that bad. And and that's where it's like,
that's a cheap moment.
Yeah. Is it the chocolate cake from Whole Foods counter? No, it's not. But I've had a slice of vegan pizza here and there. You've seen me eat that.
We've had that.
Yes, and in moderation, and then I don't touch it for months. But yeah, but it's definitely, I'm not going back to regular pizza because it would just hurt me, and it's not worth it. And I always ask, is it worth it? If I'm going to eat a little piece of bread or something, is it worth it? And I make everyone else who's decided to eat it decide for me.
No, that's true. If I had often we've had little parties here at the clinic, and we'll order a vegan pizza, whether it's vegan or not. I mean, I get to bite 5 and I have a stomach ache because I don't eat bread.
That's it. Totally.
And it hurts for the rest of the night. Is it worth it? Was it worth it? For a second, but then not for a long time.
And I think you get to that point too, where it's like, it isn't worth it. And I'd rather just have, you know, the vegan pizza or something, you know, that makes me feel really good. My diet is far from perfect, but I don't slide so far back to where I don't ever have cheat days. Okay. So what about fasting or eating more with the circadian rhythm, like stop eating at sunset?
Well, that's supposed to be better for you, to not eat after a certain time of day. Dr. Cora will say 3 p.m. Well, nobody eats dinner. I eat dinner at 8 p.m. because I'm here till 6:30 p.m. But Dr. Cora would tell you, don't eat past 3 p.m. So there's something to that, losing weight and not eating late. There
definitely is something to that. One piece I like, truly, my best answer is to start tuning into what your body needs. Because like for your lifestyle, that's not practical. For my sanity, if I go to bed hungry, I can't sleep
if I'm hungry. I have to eat something.
Right. And so as much as I love that theory, I really do, I know that it's not practical for my lifestyle. It just isn't. And so I like intuitive eating. There are times where I skip dinner because I'm not hungry or my stomach's kind of just not feeling right.
I was like that on Saturday. I wasn't hungry all day. When I went home, I thought, well, why would I eat? I'm not hungry. So why force anything? I didn't.
Yeah. Totally.
And I felt great the next day.
Yeah. So keep the questions coming, guys. If you have any stories you'd like to share with us.
Can we do an audio story? Does anybody have any audio stories?
If anyone has them, let us know. We can
on the
unmute.
microphone. You don't have to say who you are, but we'd like to hear your story.
So we have another question. What about juice cleanses?
Oh, for detoxification, they're nice. You know, I don't know. The longest I've done a juice cleanse is 7 days. I lost probably 4 pounds. I felt great, energetic, but I did it just for energy and detox. I didn't do it to lose weight. That's just me personally.
So I've done juice cleanses several times, and you know, I've got the holistic nutrition certification background, and we were like, juice cleanses are bad because they don't have fiber. Can I tell you that juice cleanses potentially is one of the biggest things that changed my life. Literally changed my life, changed my health.
It can reset you.
I was having so many problems with my digestion and bloating and constipation, and being able to take a break from eating, which this is where fasting comes in, and actually going on that juice cleanse. My body it feels the best when I don't eat.
I agree.
Yeah. And so those fasting or those cleanses really, they help pull out the toxins. They give your digestive system a break, and they give your body that chance to repair, right? And heal. And I think it's amazing what it's able to do for you.
Sleep is very important in dieting as well, guys.
Yeah.
You have to have a good night's sleep.
So I have a story here. When I saw a nutritionist, she said, allow myself 2 pieces of dark chocolate a day. She said that by knowing it was available, I would be surprised how often I wouldn't eat any or both pieces. And she was right. So much of it is mental. And you know what? Actually, I completely agree with that. And that's why I say I have chocolate every day. And it's almost for that reason, because it's mental. I actually some days don't want it and I skip it. I'm going to turn our lights on.
I will.
Do we have a story?
I was just going to comment that what helps me with the anxiety that you were talking about, eating past a certain time, is getting a hold of these ashwagandha, tulsi, shisandra teas. All of those tend to kind of relax you more.
Yes.
And lower the anxiety.
Oh, probably lowering cortisol as well. I like that idea.
Tulsi teas are amazing for that, actually. The ashwagandha is nice because that's an adaptogenic, but the Tulsi teas, you can, because they have holy basil. Holy basil is the piece that knocks that anxiety out.
And Shisandra and Rhodiola rosea, all of those, making like just even saying that you're going to make a latte, even though if it doesn't have latte really in it, it tends to fulfill that need for it. But that you were asking me the question, and I do agree with you, being able to give your digestive system a break. I kind of really enjoyed between 2 meals doing a green juice. Not any detox, and not going detox with a lot of fruit and sugar, but greens. It was amazing.
Cynthia, did you do the intermittent fasting?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And do you mind sharing just briefly?
I still do. I kind of don't feel the need to eat early in the morning. So that's why I'd rather have a green juice in the morning, or a lemon juice, or a tea. And then later on, I'll, 10, 11.
Now, do you do this for weight loss purposes or just to feel better?
I just feel better. I just don't feel the need to put food in. So
has weight loss been a good outcome or not?
I don't think weight loss, but Jen, you need to look at my medical lab work from last time to this time. So it seems to be between hormone help and this, it seems to be working, and exercising. Yes. That other component.
Yeah. Yep. It is definitely. If anyone else, I just want to throw this in there. If anyone else has a story they'd like to share, please raise your hand and we can unmute you. Thank you, Cynthia, for sharing. I appreciate that.
Oh, Jen, just another thing I wanted to say. One of the exercise machines I really liked, the guy's closing the shop there in Reno. So if hopefully you'll find another one. It's called Vibrasonic.
Okay.
It's really potent magnets, and it just kind of shakes every cell. It's amazing.
Ooh, those are really good for the
10
lymph
minutes.
too, your lymph flow.
So
Does
go try
Pinnacle-
it before he goes out of business. He's gonna
Okay.
take the time with
Does
them.
Pinnacle Wellness
I
have
think they
that?
have that.
Who?
Do you know, does Pinnacle have that?
No, Pinnacle doesn't have that. Pinnacle
Oh.
has a chi machine.
Okay.
His is the nutrition store that's right near El Pollo Loco, right behind El Pollo Loco.
Okay.
There's a vitamin connection, I think it's called.
By Whole Foods.
No,
No, by the Fitness for 10?
where they're building opposite, there's a vet, Cleich vet.
Oh,
Cleich,
yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
opposite that.
Okay.
El Pollo Loco is a shopping center and behind it, but he's closing his store.
Okay. Oh, where the old mall used to be. Thanks, Krista.
No, not the mall, the other side.
The other.
Across the street from Cleich.
Okay.
There's a tiny shopping center that has El Pollo Loco.
Okay. We'll
And
go try.
behind it, it's there.
Well,
Go try the machine.
yeah, that's awesome. And man, getting that lymph flow and stuff together is just
Yeah, but it shakes at such rates that it causes your eyes to vibrate.
okay. Oh,
Let's
I
look
love
at-
it.
Yeah.
Yep. I think we're good.
Okay. Any
So,
other questions?
yeah, if you guys don't have any other questions, we can launch our poll. We thank you all for joining
Thank
us
you.
today.
Hopefully
Thank
we'll-
you. And thank you for making such an emphasis on hormone disruption
Yes.
Yes.
diets.
Man, hormone disruption and diets. That's the big ticket there. Big ticket there. And things do balance out. You know, that's the good thing with the starvation study. Once you start eating, really trying to eating intuitively and eat
Mhm.
clean, it may take a year or two, but your body does come back and it will take care of you.
And
it
that's
will
not
tell
called
you.
a diet anymore.
No, it's a
Called a
lifestyle. Yeah. And not counting calories is the best thing on the planet when you don't have to worry. And I think that hyper focus is really not good mentally.
Right.
I really
just
don't like that.
Depressing.
Thank you everyone for
you,
joining us
everyone.
as always. We love you guys. Take a few minutes to answer our poll. Let us know what you want and then join us. Carrie and I have another webinar at the end of the month, Ask the Practitioners. So we just get to hang out and talk about whatever you want, really.
Mhm.
Just come hang out with us.
No slides.
No slides. No boring lectures. We can just hang out.
Mhm.
That's good. All right, post poll. Host and panelists can't vote. Is the poll up?
I think so.
Okay, good.
Whose voice was that?
Cynthia,
She your host?
Mm-mm.
Why do we hear her?
King unmuted her. She raised her
Oh.
hand.
No, I mean as far as the poll. Like, what's happening?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
See.
This was super fun. Did you have any other stories you wanted to share?
Yeah, well, when I was growing up, my mother owned gyms, health spas.
Oh, that's
So
right.
we're going back to the late 60s. And I recall when I was 11 years old and just as a budding preteen, my mother putting me on a diet. As a child, I would go, and then by the time I was 15, going to work at the gym after school, after junior high, and teaching exercise classes. So at a very young age, fortunately or unfortunately, it was sort of mandated in our household to be very belly conscious and diet conscious. And I don't know, like I said, good thing, bad thing. I mean, I'm not an overweight adult because of it. You know, I grew up with a mindset of healthy eating, but also as a child was forced to be on a diet and watch, you know, what other kids ate I couldn't have necessarily. So
yeah,
I had to fit into a black leotard and look and have a 22-inch waist when I was in junior high.
that's
So
a
that's
lot
the
of
unfortunate
pressure.
part. Peace.
I
All my sisters out there know this story. They lived it too.
I was that kid who was made to stay at the dinner table until my plate was clean. And I remember sitting there for hours because I just wasn't hungry.
Oh.
But then when I was hungry, they'd be like, how does that fit in your body? Like, how are you eating this
You're
much?
so little.
Because it's just intuitive eating, you know, you don't need the same amount of calories every single day or every
that's
single
true.
meal.
I
And
find every day, don't you eat different?
totally. I eat
Different amount of amounts, calories?
Sure.
What you want?
My weight does not change. It fluctuates maybe 2 pounds.
Yeah.
And some weeks I eat a whole heck of a lot and I get
Oh.
worried about what the scale's going to say.
But guess what? It doesn't
No,
change,
and
right?
other weeks I'm not that hungry.
Yeah.
And I've been able to get to that place where
Mhm.
intuitive eating has
Mhm.
completely taken care of all of that. Thank you everyone for joining us. We appreciate you as always and your support. And we hope that you all have a great week.
Thank you.
Yay, happy March.
Thank you.
And we'll see you at the end of the month. So make sure you to join us. Thank you. Bye guys.